Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, collectors of all ages, welcome back to AussieVerse, where today we have a very special episode because not only do you get to see OmniBeau, Sharif and Shane here today, as per usual, we have two very special guests today, all the way from QBD Books. That is correct. QBD Books, we have the fiction buyer and category manager, Sarah McConville over here, and the CEO, Nicholas Croydon. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. How are you today?
Welcome, everyone.
Good, thank you.
Good, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much for joining us here. Where are we chatting to you guys? Are you up in Queensland?
Yeah, I'm in Brisbane, and Sarah's in Brisbane too.
Oh, cool. Okay, so you're neighbours with Shane. And yes, Sharif, actually. I just realised I'm the odd one out.
Yeah, you're the odd one out.
If you do want to look, if you do want to interact with us, please go to Instagram, where you can check us out at AussieVerse_Comx, where you can also check out our graphic designer A51_designs. That is enough of the plug, and let's get down to some loving, guys. Before we do get down to it, the first thing I do want to ask you about is you have this manga mania that is taking over the QBD stores across Australia this September. Please tell us all about that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, so this is the Manga Mini-Con. We're going to be hosting it in about 50 of our 85 stores. So check our web pages for the locations. It's running from the 7th to the 10th of September, and the crews in all the stores are going to get excited about it. They're going to dress up in their favorite costumes. We're going to have tables outside our stores full of products, and we just want to bring in the community. Invite them in to dress up, get involved, enjoy themselves, come and talk to our team members because they love the genre and they love interacting with the guys in the community. And we're going to be putting on some special offers. I think, Sarah, we've got is it 20% off, or what's the promotion we're running?
It's buy one get one half price of the whole Viz range. So any Viz media title is buy one get one half price. And that's running in stores for the whole month. And then obviously Mini-Con is over the 4 days towards the end of the month. So that'll be the major promotion.
Okay. Yeah, so that's great. So we've got some real, obviously Viz Media is probably the dominant force in this genre at the moment. And they're very important to us and we're important to them. So we've managed to snag some great deals from them. We'll also be offering prizes for the best dress cosplay. So there'll be lots going on, and a lot of excited people hopefully running around in their crazy costumes.
Cool.
Sounds like September is going to be a big month for QBD running the con.
Yeah, that's right. So we just felt like it was real interesting to invite people into a shopping centre. Right, we obviously we're big supporters of things like Supernova, right? And we go to lots of other events which are exclusively for that community. But we just thought we'd try and make it a bit more mainstream and say, hey, why don't you just come in and enjoy yourselves, in a centre down the road. Cool. And that's what we're trying to do for the first time. So we've got no clue how it's going to go. Right, and so we just thought, well, we'd lay it out there to anyone who's interested and see who turns up.
And it's interesting. You mentioned mainstream, where manga didn't used to be mainstream. When did you actually saw the insurgence or the popularity of manga taking off?
Sarah, why don't you take that one?
I will. So these Simon & Schuster, the publisher Simon & Schuster, picked up the Viz Media imprint in, I think, late 2017. So prior to that, manga was basically only available in like special comic shops or online. So it was really hard to get in Australia. And then when Simon & Schuster picked up the Viz imprint, became immediately accessible. They had a up and down stock levels for a little while, but generally since 2018 we've been up because it's so accessible now, whereas before it wasn't. And then you've got obviously the advent of anime being made available on streaming services like Netflix and Amazon, so that kind of connects to that as well and generates interest. So yeah, probably I think since it's been widely available in Australia, it's become more popular.
What I like about the genre, and I'll be totally upfront and say it's not my genre, right? You know, I'm
really?
Yeah, I'm old to do this, right? So, but I love my history. But anyway, but what I do love about it is, you know, it's particularly popular with, you know, young, you know, like from the teenage years onwards, and that is a time of their lives when quite often they're tempted not to read, right? You know, and to go just looking at their phones. I mean, you see them everywhere, right? And particularly teenage boys, you know, they're one of the hardest groups to get to read, you know, anything, right? And manga is, you know, very strong with, you know, teenage boys and girls, but and, you know, and young men and women. But, you know, to actually get teenage boys to read anything is a challenge, and to have a genre that they absolutely love, I just think it's fantastic for them. And as a parent, anything to get them off the damn screens, right? You know, and into a book and off their phones, right? Is a plus.
I tell you, one of the attractions for my, as you can tell by Sharif and myself's background, we have a couple of books, and I've got friends that have been into manga or manga, however you pronounce it, for years, and I've always appreciated it. I've watched the animes, but I was never really into it necessarily. And in the last year, I've bought a few here and there, and now I've got a whole section in this bookshelf. And I've got to tell you, one of the things that attracted me to it, I don't know what this says about me, but the truth is that it's cheap compared to these books. I remember somebody telling me about Chainsaw Man, which is a huge thing right now. Chainsaw Man. Everybody's got to read Chainsaw Man. And I said to myself, there's no way I'm going to go down a rabbit hole of a new book where I'm going to need to collect 20 books now. And my mates turned around and he goes, well, no, first of all, it's only 12. So calm down. There's not 20 or 50, okay? For now. However, go to your local QBD and you will see that they're only $2 or $14 each or something around those lines. And I went, no way. And I went there and I saw he was right. All of these books, you know, what I'm used to spending, I don't know, $40, $50, $100 on books, you could pick up a stack of manga for what you get for that. And that's bang for your buck, and I love that.
Yeah, certainly. They definitely retail, you know, like a normal B format, which is around the same size of a novel, is now retailing about $22, $24. So, you know, it's almost half price. The affordability is definitely appealing, I think. And which is fortunate because there are lots in the series. So I think, for example, like One Piece, I think is up to 103, 104. Even though it's cheap, so it can become quite expensive hobby, I think. But I think once you're in, that's it.
Oh, but see, the other good thing about manga though is that they released the box sets, so you don't need to get 1, 2, 3, 4. Just get the box set with 1 to 10, then 10 to 20. Have a stack of boxes.
What was that box set that we did last year, Sarah? That we sold for like 170. How many was in that?
That was My Hero Academia, and I think it was about 20. Yeah. And then the year before was Demon Slayer, and I think it was about 23. So they're getting like quite sizable, but very affordable for how many books are in there. So.
And how much was My Hero?
I think it was around 100. We had it marked down for around 175. I think it was an RRP of like
so for 20 books,
270.
It's like $8, $9 a book, right? Which is a couple of coffees, right?
Absolutely, Shane. Are you in dangerous waters here, because I remember back when you started appearing on AussieVerse, you weren't really an omnibus collector, and now we're talking a lot of mangas here. I'm starting to feel for you, mate. I'm thinking you're going to need more bookshelves. So, fiction buyer and category manager. That is a title that I have got to say is an amazing title that is very, very attractive to somebody like myself. Please explain what that is and how cool that must be. Or am I totally wrong and there is a lot of downsides to it? I don't know.
I mean, no, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool job. So in the simplest of terms, I am responsible for all of the fiction in any QBD store, every QBD store in Australia, including online. So I buy new titles, I maintain range, I recall titles that aren't working, all that kind of stuff. That's all me.
And manga.
Wow.
And manga is part of that. Manga, graphic novels, pop culture is part of that, of fiction overall.
And classics. You also do Thomas Hardy. You also do Thomas Hardy. So yeah.
I do. I do. It's a big job, but it's a very fun job.
Oh man! So you don't have friends coming up to you and they're being like, "Hey, you know that manga that I really love that no one else does? Do you reckon you can start pushing that in the shops?"
Yeah, all the time. I love the time I have friends call me and be like, "Do your stores have ... And I'll be like, "Yeah." Or I'll get you one. But yeah, I'm very popular among my friends and family. Oh my god!
I imagine you would be.
Yeah.
And Nicholas, CEO. That's a pretty big title there. How did you get to that title, sir?
So yes, I've been in books for 25 years. Mostly in Europe, but I used to then sell books around the world, and I used to be a supplier of QBD, and then it was owned by two brothers, and one day over a bottle of wine on a balcony somewhere, they said they wanted to sell the business, and they decided that I ought to raise the money to do it and take it over. Which at the time, on the second bottle of wine, I thought was a fantastic idea. And then, so then went back to my family in Spain and announced that we might be moving to Australia. And they sort of twisted the globe around and went, "What, you mean down there?" And I'm like, "Explain." So I spent about 8 months running around Australia raising money from investors, and we bought it in October 2016. And I've been running it ever since. We bought 50 stores, and we now have 85, and we're in every state and territory across Australia. And I'm going for the 100. That's my personal goal. So yeah, and we're bringing books back into popularity. We just opened last weekend a QBD store in Dubbo. Right, and you might think Dubbo is this like small, sleepy town with a zoo, and great zoo by the way. But it's been amazing. You know, we were absolutely jammed from the moment we opened. For the whole weekend, it's just continued. So there's a lot of people out there who've got no choice but to buy books and manga online because there's no bookstore left. And what we're doing is bringing bookstores back to rural Australia, to metro, outside metro, and thankfully, touch wood, we're being rewarded by our customers who are just so pleased to have a bookstore in their neighbourhood and to have people that actually know what they're talking about. So it's very hard online to browse and to ask questions, whereas in a QBD store, you've got people like Sarah. She used to be a manager in the Gold Coast. Who she knows what she's talking about. So you can just have a great conversation and be excited and talk about the things you love. And I just think it's a great product to be involved in. It's very old technology, right? But we're all passionate about books.
What What are kind of the challenges do you face when you say plan to open a new store at a particular location? Um, do you do a study as to like what the demographics of the community is?
Yeah, we get all that. We get all the data. So obviously the size of the town, that's often misleading because some of the rural places have massive outreach to farming communities who will drive 200, 300 kilometers, to come to their monthly or weekly day in town. So we look at that. There does have to be a sort of a big enough community there. We then look for a shopping center that exists and might have the right amount of space. We need quite a bit of space these days to show all the products that we have. We need to make sure that there's enough people coming to that shopping center. So it tends to be the bigger ones that we're interested in. And we look then for the location. We like to be in the fast traffic areas where people are walking past, because most people don't wake up in the morning and go, oh, I really must buy a book today. They wake up in the morning and go, I need my coffee. Right? I need my coffee. I need to go to work. I need to go take the kids to kindy. But it's when they've got that half an hour and they're walking down the shopping center and they've been to Coles or Woolies, and then they walk past up to a QBD store, and then they go, oh, actually, I just might pop in here for a 10-minute rest.
Yeah,
right?
that's me.
Yeah, that's me as well.
It's a very calm space. It's a safe space, right? It's a safe space.
Yeah.
And there's people in there that will like you, right? Because you like books. And so they come in and then they meet people like Sarah, right? And they just, they don't hassle you and go, buy this, buy this. They just say, hey, is there, what brought you here today, right? Is there anything I can do to help you? And she can probably tell 100 stories, but I always like the one where the lady says, yeah, I need this book. It's got a red cover. And from that, the team member had to find the book and did find it. Yeah, I don't know what it was. I can't remember what it was, but they definitely found it. So you must have more stories like that, Sarah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially ones where it's often like, they've seen it on TV or they've heard it on the radio, and they can give me like a vague idea about what it was about, but couldn't tell me who wrote it, what it was called, what it looked like. And you just kind of have to, and like anything comes, like it just comes with practice, like generally, if it's been on TV or on the radio, more than one person has asked for it. So I've probably seen it somewhere before. But our staff are pretty knowledgeable. So 9 times out of 10, they're pretty good at interpreting the customers' wants and needs. So,
Yeah.
If I could just ask a question, going back to the event itself, what will visitors to the store expect? What would they be walking into?
Yep. So there's going to be a bunch of table displays, right, in different sizes, because there's no one size fits all with all the centers. But there's going to be a large part of that space is going to be exclusively reserved for the genre, for manga and for pop culture. There'll be some pop vinyls there. There'll be some DC. So it's going to be Viz, lots of Viz, and that's all going to be on offer. And then there also will be some other books available, and like half the stores are going to be in a different area to where our normal shops are located, because we're running a thing at the moment called Book Fest. It's Book Week this week anyway in Australia. It started at the weekend, so our teams are already dressing up as their favorite book characters.
Cool.
And so they'll be dressed up in their favorite manga costumes or cosplay costumes, whatever they decide to come in as. So that's going to be fun. And then there's going to be competitions and just a nice chat with someone who likes what you like, right? And I think that's
awesome.
Hugely important. right? You're going to feel comfortable, right? Going there because you're not going to be the only person walking around with a great costume.
So
And there's no entry fee, and you don't have to drive very far. You know, so it's just going to be accessible, right? So it's just going to be accessible to anyone who wants to come.
And if this, well, when this realizes the success that it is, what are you planning for next year?
Yeah, so we want
make it an annual.
Yeah, we did at least, I think. So we want to learn a lot from this one. I have to give credit to one of my team leaders in Rockhampton. She actually has been doing this for a couple of years on her own back, right? So she's a crazy positive person, and she just decided she loves manga, and she just did it in Rockhampton, and it was hugely successful. So we want to see if we can have that success across, multiple stores and locations, and then we will find out that this one worked and this one didn't, and why not, and just make it a big learning exercise, and then we can whenever we put on the next one, which we might do 2 a year maybe, we can just make them better, make them better, make them bigger, and just make them more fun.
Yeah, great.
I mean, it's always great when you've got people in your team who are real passionate about this, and then they push something forward, and it's such a success, and you just borrow the idea, germinate, and spread it all across Australia, and like I said, trying to make it bigger and better every year.
Yeah, that's the aim. We can always, I know that manga and young adult books are so loved by our teams because they're always the best merchandise bays in the store. You go to gardening, it's complete mess, right? History is only tidied up by me because I love it so much, right? But the graphic novels and the YA and the sci-fi and the fantasy, perfect.
and that's normally the aisle where you have customers sitting on the floor just flipping through the books.
Exactly right.
So I noticed you've also got things like a loyalty program, a book club, loyalty card. Yeah. So there's a lot of things for customers for popping into the QBD store.
Yeah. So we have we have this book club with Channel 7, and we have 2 presenters there that they review all our book of the months, which again Sarah actually chooses that, which is quite an interesting program we started years ago, and it's just got bigger and bigger. So generally speaking, we look to support an Australian debut author, if there's one available in the month that we're talking about. And Sarah and I will discuss various titles and then pick one. And that is hugely important for that author, because you'd be surprised how many copies get sold by a debut. Your first book, right? Often it could be only 4,000 or 5,000 copies, right? In the whole of Australia, because no one knows who you are, right? And when Sarah picks a book of the month with QBD, we can sell 4,000 to 5,000 copies on our own, right? And so that just becomes a massive, big push for that author and gets her in the chart or him in the chart, and gives them a good leg up, into the industry. And we kind of think that's pretty important for these people that slog away for years writing their first novel. So we do that. Then we have the VIP club that you mentioned. So that's where you can get discounts. Not discounts. You get credit as you spend money with us. You accrue credit, which you can then use later on to reduce the cost. So we just want you to come back, every month, right, or every week. We don't care, but every month. Buy your books and then give you a little reward for doing that. And then you also get priority on things like signed copies and competitions and all that sort of stuff. And everyone knows who you are when you come to the store because we can see your name, right? So you're like, hey, Shane, good to see you again, right? So so we have that. We also have a partnership with Australian Geographic. So we have a lot of non-book product, for those people that struggle with their reading or can only read a few books a year. So we have a lot of science kits for the kids, right? We have jigsaws, for people who love puzzles. We have a telescope, right? So we have all sorts of products that are not book, but it's with Australian Geographic, and we are the primary sponsor of that organization, to their society for conservation and for the protection of animals, indigenous animals. So that's a really, and I'm on their board, so that's a big personal thing for me. Is I'm heavily involved in making sure that we're looking after the Aussie animals and the environment that they live in.
That's awesome.
That is, yeah.
It is.
Yeah,
No, they're a great company.
Yeah.
Beauty. Well, I think Shane said that you only had until about 6 o'clock. Do you have time for more questions, or should we wrap it up, guys? How much time?
Ask a couple more, and then we'll go.
Yeah, I've got some time. Yeah.
All right, Sharif, would you like to go first, mate?
Yeah. When mentioned earlier about the book clubs, Sarah, out of such a long list of books that get published every day, every week, how do you sort through the list and I want to go that particular book for this particular month?
Great question.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of fiction. I'm guessing you're asking broadly how I order fiction or manga, or
it's the book of the. No, he's talking about the book of the month.
Or book of the month specifically.
Yeah.
Okay, so these days it was harder in the beginning, but these days, publishers will submit books that they think are worthy of being our book of the month. So anything they want for me to consider as book of the month, publishers will submit them to me. And then depending on how many there are, because sometimes there are quite a few, I either read all of them if there's only a couple in a month, or I will read 5 to 10 chapters if there's quite a few and I'm not going to read the whole thing, at least at the beginning. And then I'll do that, and then I'll go through the list, and I usually have a favorite, one or two favorites maybe, that I think is the right choice. Often I try to keep it to Australian authors. As Nick mentioned, we like to do debuts because it can really be helpful in such a busy market as well. Like a lot of books are published every month by, there's 3 major publishers, but there's also so many smaller ones in Australia that publish really great fiction. So it can be very hard for a debut to be noticed. And then I look at genre. So generally the ones that go well for us are crime fiction, Australian crime fiction. We've got I think we're really blessed in Australia with a lot of really great crime fiction writers. But that's obviously pretty limiting. So I look at, how it's written, what kind of publicity the publishers are doing, all of that stuff. And then I have, like I said, 1 or 2 favorites. And then I go to Nick and we have a robust discussion about what he thinks is the best or what I think is the best. More often than not, we agree. And then, we go from there.
Nice. So I take it that the cover where the guy with the long flowing hair and buff body wouldn't be part of the criteria.
Generally, no. Not that they're not popular, but I do try to choose books that are going to appeal to the widest range of audience. So a lot of the time, sci-fi fantasy is a very specific buyer, and it's while we have like quite a large market share of sci-fi fantasy in general, it's small it's a small part of our customer base in comparison. So,
Oh wow. Well, I had a question. Why is it important for Australia to have this event? Would you say? What's the real driving force?
I think it's important to have access and to get it out of the niche, right, and into the mainstream, right, and to treat the genre with respect, right, and say this is no different to just because you like graphic novels, right, and I like reading Dostoevsky, right, it's like we're no different. We both like reading, and we should be. Yeah. I shouldn't be considered literary, right? Just because I'm reading a poet or something, right? So I think it's just giving credit to someone who's willing to read. So we want to treat the genre with the same respect we give any other genre, right? And therefore the customers that love that genre, they should feel safe and relaxed and happy to be able to walk through a shopping center and come to a QBD and get involved, right? And to enjoy themselves and not feel like they're some other sector over here. It's like they're not, right? They're just normal people having fun, enjoying what they love to read, and we respect that, and we're going to promote that.
I love
That's
that
awesome.
response.
That is great.
My final question to whoever's willing to answer this one, because I'm not sure who I should be addressing it to, is what advice do you have to offer an author who would like to conduct an event at a QBD?
Okay. So did you say and what advice I'd give to an author who wants to
conduct an event at a QBD?
An event. Yeah. So if you're an existing author and you want to have an event, then you just contact our marketing department, right? And my advice is, you don't try and do that on your first book, right? Because people won't know who you are. And the worst thing you can do to an author is have them sat at a table, in front of a shop, right, with their lovely book, which they've sweated for 2 years over, right? And no one comes and asks for it because they don't know who you are. Right. So we've got to be protective of the authors. We don't want them to feel embarrassed or have a bad time. So you really need to look at events, proper signing events when you're a bit more established. What you can do with your first book is walk into any QBD and sign the stock. Right. You're not going to have an event there because it wouldn't work. But go talk to the team leader. Introduce yourself, tell them about your book, tell them what you want to tell the customers about your book, because they will repeat it, right? Sign the stock that's inside so we can put a signed by the author sticker on it, right? You can do all that at a QBD. You don't even need to make an appointment to that. If we've got your book, you just come in and introduce yourself, right? If you're an established, if you got a big following and you want to do a proper event, talk to marketing.
Beauty. Glad I asked that question. All right. Well, thank you very, very, very much for joining us today, guys. We really, really do appreciate it. This has been a very, very good. I'm a little starstruck because I've got to be honest with you. We usually have the certain type of clientele on this program. Okay, we have not had a CEO and a fiction buyer and category manager on the show. Okay, I'm allowed to stumble over my words. So, forgive me for a sec while I do the outro. Ladies and gentlemen, we are sponsored by one and only fantastic Comx. If you are not sure who Comx is, please go check them out. The link for them is in the description. They are the place that is keeping Australia together with all of their comic creators, writers, colorists, and a word that I invented last week, inkerers. That's right. You can go check them out all at Comx, and it doesn't matter if you buy 1 book, 2 books, 5 or 10. Comx will ship them out at one flat shipping rate. And this has been an episode all about QBD books. If you do not want to go to Google and simply type in QBD books, then simply go to our description of the page where there will be websites galore for everything, including that manga that is Manga Con that is coming out 17th of August until Sunday, the 10th of September. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
This show is sponsored by the Comx shop. Check out comx.cx for all things Comx and find out what Comx is all about. We hope you enjoyed the show.